You are the turkey I have chosen to pardon. Fly free, turkey. Oh, fudge sickles.
Surrender that gigantic pie. To the free, my rascally restaurantarian!
Adam West was a genius. When he died just over a year ago, the world lost an icon. A man who, more so than any actor of the past 50 years, was able to draw on his existing body of work to create a dense, multi-layered persona, which in my eyes makes him one of the best self-parodists of all time. As we all know, West rocketed to fame in the mid-1960s as the star of the live-action Batman series, a show which embraced the camp undertones of the original comic series and amplified them to the extreme. We've all seen West's version of Batman parodied a ridiculous number of times, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much in this video, although maybe I will in a future instalment. Please keep watching our videos. Please? Anyway, whilst Batman is often looked upon as a sort of 60s relic, which was very much a product of its time, the series was never intended to be taken particularly seriously. As West noted, the irony came when I read that marvellous first script by Lorenzo Semple Jr., and I thought it was the funniest script that I'd ever read. I hoped that they would let us make the show a comedy, and indeed, our late executive producer Bill Dozier and some of the others were in complete agreement on that tone. Batman kind of exemplifies what made Adam West so special. Not only is there an element of self-awareness in the part that he's playing, an acknowledgement that his acting is subpar, but there's also an element of West himself imbued in the part. This isn't Batman as he was known from the comics, but Batman as rendered by West. In many senses, this role should have caused an immediate halt to West's career. Like many actors famed for a set role, West struggled to be taken seriously and spent much of the 1970s struggling to find work, with a low point being his ill-fated appearance at Indiana Carnival in which he was shot out of a cannon. But at the same time, this typecasting afforded West a golden opportunity to reinvent himself. Starting in the late 80s, West began making a name for himself as well. Adam West, an out-of-work actor who still believes that he is the Batman, unaware that the world has very much moved on. West's list of guest appearances are numerous and stretch across a wide range of genres, but there are common themes across all of his performances. In Zorro, he's playing a character named Dr. Wayne, who explores Zorro's secret cave headquarters. In Goosebumps, he's a fading star known for playing a superhero, and in The Simpsons, he's
Adam West! Hey kids, Batman!
Dad, that's not the real Batman.
Of course I'm Batman. See, here's a picture of me with Robin.
Who the hell's Robin?
Oh, I guess you're only familiar with the new Batman movies. Michelle Pfeiffer. Ha. The only true Catwoman is Julie Newmar, Lee Merriweather, or Eartha Kitt. And I didn't need molded plastic to improve my physique. Pure West. And how come Batman doesn't dance anymore? Remember the bat to see?
Nice meeting you.
The idea of an actor being typecast is nothing new in Hollywood, and there have been plenty of instances in which an established actor has used his status as a cultural icon to make fun of himself. But what made Adam West so special was his utter commitment to self-parody. This reached its zenith in his star turn in the Conan O'Brien and Robert Smigel penned pilot for the series Look Well, a show about a failing actor who, having starred in a moderately successful cop show, believes that he can solve mysteries. In many ways, Look Well presented a perfect opportunity for West to showcase the more elaborate style of his persona. The biography of Look Well as a washed-up relic from the 70s made West the perfect star to take on the part. Unfortunately, the show was not picked up by NBC, and was instead confined to the dustbin of pilots that never made it off the ground. But the show did present West with an opportunity to further refine his public persona, and turn out one of the best, most self-aware meta-performances in TV history. West's numerous roles as, well, Adam West, not only allowed him to satirise himself, but also arguably allowed West to retain his status as Batman indefinitely. Whilst there have been many actors who have taken on the role of the world's greatest detective, none have retained such a powerful connection to the character as West, in part because no actor since West has worked as hard to retain it. When I'm watching Christian Bale in American Hustle, I'm thinking, hey, this movie really sucks. I mean, that's not in the script. I may think, hey, this guy's played Batman, but his performance isn't really informed by this fact. It's not like there's any references or connections to Batman. Bale is just someone who has played him before. Whereas when I'm watching West in this...
What are these?
Those would be bat socks?
They just look like normal socks.
Batman wore those socks.
Whatever.
Sir,
Batman is inescapable. Everything about West's performance points back to his role as the Dark Knight, and this is true of almost all of his cameo appearances. And yes, before you start, I know Michael Keaton played essentially himself in Birdman and that there are loads of references to Batman in his performance throughout, but I don't think this is the same thing. Whereas Keaton's performance was an effort to be taken seriously and relaunch his acting career, West's self-parody is just that, a way of poking fun at himself and his typecasting. In many senses, West consolidated his legacy as Batman better than any of his counterparts, just as Hitchcock used his cameos to interlink his films into a sort of shared universe. Adam West's appearances as Adam West reminded us that time and time again he was still Batman, and that this was inescapable as part of his identity. As West said in an interview, "I don't know quite how to say this, but Adam West has made a transition, and that version of me is known as well as any character that I've played." Perhaps the best medium through which West was able to develop his persona was animation, which afforded West opportunities that were not available given his age and limited range as an actor. As we touched on briefly in our video on The Incredibles, animation is a medium in which anything is possible, and West's guest turns in a number of animated TV shows allowed the character to amp up the crazier and more surreal sides of his personality. In Fairly Odd Parents, he plays the superhero Catman, who befriends Timmy Turner and is often seen behaving like a real-life cat, whilst in Futurama he's a disembodied head attached to a real-life bat. These kind of appearances stick out because unlike in his live-action cameos, West is able to move freely and easily like a much younger actor, and so if you want to make him do something truly bizarre, you can. There are no sort of limits on where you can take the West character in this regard. He can literally do anything. West embracing animation in this way even allowed him to become Batman again in the critically acclaimed Batman: Return of the Caped Crusader, which replicated perfectly the campy tone of the 60s series. This amplification of the West character through means of animation absolutely peaked in his recurring role in Family Guy as the Mayor of Quahog, a role that ultimately came to define him almost as much as Batman. In the series, West is depicted as insane and capable of anything. In one scene, he's storing an escape raft at the back of his throat. In another, he's playing poker with dogs, and, most worryingly, he frequently murders the town's residents.
Dr. Brown, I just killed 9 people! I have ducks on my feet. Old crazy harmless mayor. Quack, quack!
In this role, West took his caricature to the stratosphere, amping up his performances at every opportunity to portray himself as a criminally insane, neglected actor. And yet, perhaps what is most fascinating about his turn as Quahog's mayor was that the show rarely, if ever, drew attention to West's previous role as Batman. And yet, I think this is kind of what made West's performance better. You don't need the explicit reference to West as Batman because West had spent so long developing his persona, and that the link was already synonymous. When you're watching West in Family Guy, you already know that West was TV's Batman, and this knowledge informs every aspect of his performance. I think this is the true hallmark of good meta-acting and self-parody. At every turn, West, the person, and West, the character, are connected, and it is often difficult to see where one ends and the other begins, to the point that any cameo is informed by this textual knowledge of West. It's a bit like those Stan Lee cameos you see in every Marvel film. We don't have any characters inorganically saying things like, here is Stan Lee, former editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, because it's already clear who he is. By the same token, knowledge of who West is informs every one of his characters. When we watch Adam West in something, we're pulled out of the world that the characters inhabit momentarily and pulled into the world of West. You could say that it's a West world. Come back. I won't make any more jokes like that, but I promise. It's fairly commonplace now for celebrities to play exaggerated versions of themselves on TV shows. Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant made an entire show out of this idea with extras. But Adam West was one of the first people to really perfect this formula, and deserves special recognition for his influence on cameo culture. Classic full fat sign-off. What does that mean? Do some sort of funny sign-off that's a Batman reference, you know what I mean? Don't think I do know what you mean. Don't think I do.
There, darling. What do you think?
Oh, please.
If you'd like to see more from Full Fat videos, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And of course, keep drinking some full fat milk.